I know there's like a story, we were talking about it earlier, that you bring Macho Man over, right? Mm-hmm. And when you bring Macho Man over, was that Hulk? Because Hulk and Macho Man were friends, right? At the time? Or was that you kind of going to him saying, I know they don't want to take care of you at WWE? Or how did that work?
It was Hulk and Randy had a very weird relationship. It was definitely a love-hate relationship. And depending on what part of their careers we're talking about, sometimes it was more love than hate, and sometimes more hate than love. But it was Hulk. Hulk called me and said, hey, Randy wants to give you a shout. Would you take his call? Would I take his call? Oh, yeah, anytime. But, I talked to Randy, and he, again, put it all on the table. He said, Vince McMahon thinks I'm done as a wrestler. All he wants me to do is be a color commentator, and I don't think I'm done. I still think I've got some gas in the tank. I want to come over. Sure, brother. Now, here's the cool thing about Randy. Randy had a deal with Slim Jim, but by the way, he still has. I was in a 7-Eleven in Denver, wherever I was a couple of weeks ago, and there's a big display of Slim Jims, and Randy Savage is still on the
I saw a commercial. I saw a commercial this morning.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It brings a tear to my eye. I love it.
Oh, he's a legend.
Well, yeah.
But Randy came over when I said, sure, Randy, I'll hire you. And I paid him $750,000 a year was his salary. And the reason I know that is because he brought Slim Jim with him, and they bought a $750,000 sponsorship in my show. So I got Randy for free.
Wow.
I had to give up
home run.
I had to give up some airtime, but it was all the Slim Jims I could eat, and they paid Randy's contract. It was awesome for 2 years.
Wow. Was he really married to Elizabeth?
He was at one time. Not when he came to work for me. They had already been divorced, but he was at one time.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I used to have a big crush on her, boy.
Oh, she was a smoke show.
So did Hulk Hogan, according to Randy. But it's not true. But Randy always thought that Hulk had a little thing going on with Elizabeth. It wasn't true. But Randy was crazy jealous. Crazy jealous.
Wait, Randy thought that Hulk and Elizabeth were...
It was a storyline about something like that.
Yeah, well, he thought that, Hulk intentionally as a rib or whatever grabbed Elizabeth's ass when she was coming out of the ring. And the story, now I wasn't working with either one of them back then, but Randy was psycho jealous.
Of what? Like wrestlers wanting to...
Getting too close. They would go to the building and Randy would make her sit in her own dressing room and not come out and wouldn't allow people to come in.
Wow.
Like he didn't want her anywhere near the business. And of course she ends up being a valet, right? Now she's in the thick of things.
Well, why did he allow her to be like such a main part of his storyline then?
I don't think he had any control over it. It just kind of took on a life of its own. And he tried to adjust to it. Now, by the time Randy came to work for me and Elizabeth was working, in fact, Randy's the one that suggested I bring Elizabeth in. It was a crazy world I lived in. I forget how crazy it is until I start telling these stories.
Yeah, that's nuts. So you get Randy Savage, and at the time, could you use the name Macho Man Randy Savage?
Yeah, he owned it.
Oh, he owned it.
Yeah.
Because that was an issue with Razor Ramon, right?
Yeah.
So some of them you could own the name, some of them you couldn't?
Very few. Like if they had a character name in WWE, we couldn't touch it. But a lot of these guys like Randy Savage, they were using that name before they ever went to work for WWE. So they didn't own it.
So you get him and then he says, hey, I want to bring in my wife, Elizabeth. They were really married in real life, right?
Yeah, they were married at one point. Wow. They had been divorced. Randy comes to work for me. They're still divorced. In fact, she was married to another guy, an attorney down in Miami at the time. And Randy got excited about an idea he had that involved Elizabeth, and he called me and said, hey, I want to bring her in. Here's the storyline I want to use her in. Can we make it happen? I said, sure, no problem.
And she came back. They worked great together, divorced?
They worked together, and she ended up hooking up with Lex Luger.